Hey everyone, Luke here. Now, I know it's been quite a while. It's been must have been a month since the last chapter. Yeah, because we've got chapters 115, 116, 117 and 118 out, and I'm going to get into them, don't you worry, but there is a couple of things that I need to address first. First of all, why I've been absent. Well, for one thing, Christmas, so the work at my job kind of took over, so I didn't have time, and after a while, I was exhausted. Any fan of Tekken 101 knows how sometimes when he was working at Dollar Tree, he would have Christmas and it would be really busy for him and he just didn't have the time to do videos or anything like that. So yeah, that's been the same with me. And also, I was sick on one of the days. I was going to do one of the reviews, but I was sick. My voice was killing me. So it would have been I was talking like this all the time, and I just didn't want to strain my voice any more than I did. I love the chapters. Don't get me wrong. I love the chapters. That's why I'm doing it today. I just wanted to let you guys know that. And also, I was working on my book while I was recovering. I was working on my book, and I finished it. I finished my second book. The first one I couldn't get published in the time that it took me to write the second one, which is what I wanted to do. But I think I know a few reasons why. It's because it was a bit too dark, and that's probably what turned a few people off. So I've gone with something a lot more light-hearted this time, and we'll see where it goes from that. And I'm already gearing up to write my third book, which will be a story about a ghost. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, just we'll get into the review. We'll get into the reviews of the chapters right now. Oh, and something else, guys, that I forgot to mention was I have seen the first episode of the anime. I loved it. I thought it was a pretty good adaptation of the first episode and kind of a little bit of the second, the first chapter, and kind of a little bit of the second chapter. Although a lot of people were like, there was a lot of criticism about the first episode in the sense that there was a lot of because the music and the atmosphere, it kind of made it obvious to them that something bad was going to happen. But that's the nature of the game. It's like the music, in my opinion, the music just added to the atmosphere and made it that much more creepy. And I especially love the sound effects of the demons, like when they did with their eyes, like it was really squidgy, and the creepy aspect of the bones, like it just bone crackling. That was really cool to me. I thought that just added just so much to them and made them that much more scary. And another thing as well is that I loved how we didn't actually get like a big shot reveal of the demons. It was kind of like they were kind of shot from different angles, and we only kind of saw brief glimpses of them, which adds more to the mystery aspects of the series itself. And also the voice actors for Emma and Isabella, absolutely perfect. I mean, obviously Isabella was voiced by the same lady that voiced Ichigo's boss in Bleach, and you could tell that how she went from being like really kind and really sweet to being really sinister at the end. And Emma's voice really good as well. She's actually, fun fact, she's actually voiced by the same person that voiced Nina Tucker in Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. So I find that really strange how, because she's only 19, I believe she's only 19, the voice actress for Emma in The Promised Neverland. But it's really strange how 10 years later she's come back to voice another character in a horror in a kind of horrific setting as well. So I find that really interesting. And Ray's voiced by the same person that voiced Reg in Made in Abyss. And during the trailers as well, I was kind of like a bit unsure about it, because I just kept on hearing Reg's voice just all the time for Made in Abyss whenever Ray's came out. But as the episode got on, it did grow on me. Now, I'm not saying it was a perfect episode. There was things about it that I didn't like at certain points. I didn't like... I'm kind of in the fence of, I'm kind of indifferent of the opening scene. Now I know the opening scene, what it was done. It was to establish the mystery for the anime only people. But as a manga reader and knowing that, it's kind of like I was a bit like, I'm not sure if this part should go here. But if that's the case that they did to build the mystery for the anime only people, I understand that. But it's just something that that was a little bit unsuring for me personally. And another thing that I didn't really find really all that well was Don's voice. I just felt Don's voice was a little bit too old for my liking, and I'll give it a little bit of a pass here because it's the actor's first role, like first ever anime role. I know that's what I've loved most about the anime, how they've gone various veterans for the main roles, like Emma, Ray, Norman, and Isabella. Like they're the main roles in like the first arc. So they've got like them for like really established voice actors, but for overalls they've kind of like gone with voice actors that are either starting out or have not really done that much to kind of give them a sense of experience and see what range they can actually do. So I really like that about the anime, but it's just Dawn's voice was a little bit too old for my liking. So those are my opinions on the actual first episode and how it compared to the manga. In my opinion, it was I imagine what it should have been. It should have what it should have been an adaptation of the first chapter. That's what I thought it was going to be. Although I'm worried about how much stuff is actually going to be cut out in the next 12 episodes because they've got 37 chapters to work with. I'm just worried about what's actually going to be cut and whether it's actually going to make sense for the anime only people. But then again, this might and this has actually encouraged people. They've been saying that they're going to go out and get the manga after this first episode, and that's what I love about it. But something else as well, there was this review that was done on My Anime List when somebody basically just shat all over the episode, and he was saying like, it had potential for world building, but it didn't really follow up on that. I'm like, it's a first episode. It's meant to be an introduction to what the series is about. They could do the work, and that is the whole point. Like the world building. Oh, I don't know what the world building. I don't know world building might be the ending when you find out. Oh, there's actually demons in this world or monsters. Okay, where did they come from? That gets you interested in it, aka world building. Sorry, I had to go off a bit of a rant there, and everybody just bashed him on My Anime List to the point that he had to delete that review. I've got the review, I've saved it, and hopefully at some point I'll actually do a video on that review and how not to do a review. And then again, I shouldn't have taken his word for it because he was basically a troll. I mean, Monster, the anime, got a 2 out of 10 for him. For My Alchemist, the anime got a 2 out of 10 for him. Your Lie in April got a 2 out of 10 for him. So can you see the pattern here that he tends to go for series that are popular and just give them negative scores because they're popular? That's my opinion on the matter. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say on the anime itself. Let's get right into the reviews. Alright, so we're going to start off with chapter 115 titled Jin and Hayato. Obviously, these names are a reference to the two kids that, if you remember at the end of chapter 114, which was the chapter where I stopped at, Emma, Ray, and Dawn went out to scour an area and they noticed these two kids that were being cornered by demons. And yeah, these are the two kids that the chapter is referring to. We're going to meet these two kids, and even though they may seem like random kids when we first initially meet them, they're actually going to be a central part of the next few chapters that are actually coming up. And how I'm going to do these 4 reviews is that I'm not going to go through like every single point in the chapters, because if I do that, this review will be like about 2.5 hours to 3 hours long, and I'm sure people don't want me to be talking for that long. I mean, I could talk about the series for that long. It just shows how much passion I have for this series. And also, going back to the anime, I've been commenting on videos of people reacting, and yeah, you know when you get that pleasure of something that people don't actually know, and when it's actually revealed, it just feels so good to actually know that people have actually seen this and are just as shocked as you when you first saw it. Yeah, that's the impression I got from all those reactions of chapter 1 on YouTube, and I just type in about it on videos, and most of the people have liked them, giving me positive feedback on them, that I've been welcoming them with open arms to the actual series. And hopefully this, like I said, this will inspire them to actually go up and pick up the manga and give this series much more love and attention that it honestly deserves, because a lot of people have dismissed it after the whole escape arc, but really, and somebody actually commented on this, when we actually had a talk on My Anime List about Emma's character and how she become annoying, which I don't think that she's the backbone of the series. She's the glue that keeps everyone together. But somebody commented like, oh, it's gone a little bit repetitive after they left the house, and I had to actually comment to that because, well, that's the nature of shonen, a lot of shonen series. Like, One Piece, Bleach, Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, all of them have the same problem of like they can repeat themselves. Even One Piece, even the big series, I like One Piece as well. I'm not as massively in love with it as other people are, but I do like it. But it does fall into similar repetitive patterns. Like the Straw Hats go to an island, there's a conflict happening, there's tragic backstory, and then there's a fight with a really strong opponent at the end of the arc. For the most part, some arcs there aren't that, but for the most part, there is a strong opponent waiting for Luffy to actually fight at the end. Like for example, let's look at the when they've entered the new world. Let's start with Punk Hazard as well. It's like Luffy versus Caesar Clown, that happened at the end. Dressrosa, Luffy versus Doflamingo, that happened at the end. So that was one arc where there wasn't like really a big fight at the end. I don't think so, but Totland or Whole Cake Island or T-Python, whatever one you call that arc, Luffy versus Karakuri, but particularly Dressrosa and Whole Cake Island, they have had a similar repetitive nature in terms of the actual structure of the arc. How they've gone to the island, there's been a conflict, there's been tragic backstory, and then there's been a fight with like a really strong opponent. And I hate when people are like that. When people are like they'll look at a series and think like, oh, it's doing typical cliches, when they'll have another series that they're a fan of that does the exact same thing and don't bat an eyeline at it. But that's all I wanted to say on that point. And you have to give me credit on that One Piece does repeat itself in certain aspects. You have to give me that credit in that regard. So you can't really complain about Promised Neverland repeating stuff when One Piece actually does it as well. That's all I wanted to say on that, and don't flame me for that. I'm just expressing my honest opinion on the whole matter. But anyway, going back to the chapter, so we see Emma, Ray and Don surrounding, looking down on the kids, and Emma going, we've got to save them. And of course, sure enough, they do actually save them. They're able to shoot arrows at the demons, killing them immediately, which that's what I expected to do. It shouldn't have been a problem for all three of them, like Emma, Ray and Don, to actually do something like that, because they've got the experience. It's something that they can easily take down, no problem. So after saving Jin and Haitio, I won't be able to pronounce his name. It's the same thing with the Kutavadila, or however you pronounce that word. But yeah, after they've saved them, we see Ray, Don and Emma go down to them, hold up their guns to their faces, and Ray going, "Don't move, who are you? What you do and what you're doing here?" And I really like this about them, how they're not being stupid, like, even though they are people, because of the whole nature with what's been going on with the Ritari clan and how they're enemies just as much as the demons. They're being really cautious here, and that's what I love about it. Like they can only trust like their select group until they actually figure out the truth about who they actually meet. So yeah, the fact that they're not being stupid, they're actually being smart. Like, okay, even though we saved them, they might be spies for the Ritari clan, and we've got to be careful with them, and we're going to interrogate them, and if they turn out to be great, if they turn out to be cool, great, they're on our side. If not, then I'm sure Ray would have actually killed them then and there, because Ray, when it was like they were facing off against Andrew, he was prepared to kill Andrew. Even though it went against what Hugo said, he was prepared to do it because he knew that it was a do or die situation in that regard. And in case you guys are wondering, Jin's the one with the bandana around his face, and Hatsuri is the blonde one with the headband around his face. So those are the two that you can tell the difference between them. But after Ray has interrogated Hatsuri, he turns around and he just bows himself, and he's just crying his eyes out, like, "Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I was so scared. I thought I was going to be dead by now. I thought I was going to be Ian. The guns that we had brought with us, and even the clothes that we had with us, they were eaten." And we see like the anger on Don's face, like, that has stuck out to me. It's like, it's just showing just how much of the situation has just like been pulled on, dawned on Don's face of how much of how defenseless they can actually be in certain situations at this moment in time when they've got nowhere to go. But also we see a look of guilt on Ray's face, like, for doubting them as well. But it's not really a case of doubting them. It's like he gave perfectly valid reasons. He was saying, like, we don't know if it's a trap, we don't know if they're enemies or allies, so we have to be really cautious with them. But you can see like the just like shade of guilt on on Ray's face, which again, going back to how Ray was at Ray was at the beginning of the series and how much of detached it is, and some people when they first see Ray, particularly the anime only people, they compare him to like an edgelord. Particularly that guy that did that negative review, he said that Ray was an edgelord. Well, I would love to see him like right now, like with the just like guilt of like doubting someone of his own race because he thought that they might be an enemy. I'd like to see him call Ray an edgelord in this situation. So as Hattori is going on and saying, thank you so much for saving our lives, and just diving into Emma, Jin's like, don't be like that to the person that's just saved our lives. And then we see them like actually realise who they actually are, and they're like, humans? And then you see Ray and Dawn actually getting pissed off at them like, it's too late for that, which it isn't at that point. Like, it took them that long to figure out like, oh, they are actually humans, and they continue to be like, just like, oh, thank you, we're so sorry we've been rude to you again. And Ray's going, and your voices are too loud, the enemy will notice your nose. That's what Dawn says, the enemy will notice you. And I just love how just like quickly they're just going through all these emotions by just meeting these two new people. It's like Ray went from guilt to anger to even more anger that they're actually being loud. And again, that's what I love about this, how they're not just one-dimensional characters, they actually have layers to them, and they actually have personalities and different emotions that can come out. Ray's not just like this stoic edgelord anymore. He has different emotions that could come out, range from guilt to anger when under pressure. And the same thing with Don, how he's gone from being one of the more cheery ones of the group to, in the first arc, being like one of the ones that was like really emotional that him and Gilda were being left out, to someone that's like he's still one of the more cheery ones, but he's like gotten a lot more complex in terms of how much emotion he can actually display in certain situations. And Emma goes on to ask who they are and what they are doing here before they actually introduce themselves formally. So after introducing themselves, they go on to say that they can't explain all the details, but they're working with a certain person to achieve a certain goal. Now, at first, when you first read this chapter, you're obviously thinking, oh, it's William Minerva. They're working with him to liberate all the Firends. But as we get further down into the chapters as well, particularly these next 4 chapters, and there's hints way back as early as chapter 115 as to the identity of the person. And I'm going to spoil it now. It's Norman. Norman was the guy, was the actual person who was actually at that farm who blew it up with those four adult-looking people in the last chapter. And there's hints in this chapter that they're working for Norman. But when I first read this, I thought like, oh, I still thought it was William Minerva. So Sid, like, and I just went down to Worcester this past week because it was also my birthday. It was my birthday on last Monday. I turned 28, so I went to Worcester for a few days as well, which was one of the other reasons why I couldn't do it last week. But Sid and I were talking about this, and I basically had to see like he was right that Norman was the one behind it, and it's sort of like the tale of William Minerva has actually been passed on to him, and we're probably going to find out more about that in the next chapter, like chapter 119, when that's released this week. But anyway. This was one of the things that I actually did not notice, but I should have been like guessing like, oh, this is not, it has to be Norman the one behind it. It's this part here where Hattori goes, when he like just screams and Don's going, we told you need to stay quiet, and he goes, Jin, these people, no way, they're the Gracefield escapees. Now, at first, I didn't pay much attention to that line, but now, as I'm thinking back of it, and if I had paid more attention to it, I would have been like, yeah, how do they know that the Gracefield escapees? And it's obvious now, Norman was the one who actually told them who they are, and even they are actually shocked. Like Don and Ray, they're actually like, especially Ray's got like you see the speech bubble where it has like the true explanation parts. Obviously red flags. It's like, and he's being a little bit more cautious. Like he's still got the gun at them, and he's probably thinking like, how do they know who we are? Are they working for Peter Rattari? Is that how they know who we are? Because he doesn't know what's happened to Norman. Neither does Emma at this point, and and he still thinks like Peter Rattari. It's obviously Peter Rattari that's actually found them, and they're being used by them at this point. Although it won't take long for Ray to realise that that's not the case. But yeah, they have the same expression that I'm pretty sure a lot of people had at that point. Like, how do they know? How do they know us? Like, how do they know that we're the Gracefield escapees when we all should have guessed like it's actually Norman that actually told them. They go on to say that we've been searching for all of you under William Minerva's orders, which obviously, since I'm spoiling it now, it should be under Norman's orders. But of course, like, they don't know that the William Minerva that they've been actually saying seeing is actually Norman, and that goes back to what was actually with that phone call and how it was different, and how it was possibly Norman that was the one that actually sent that phone call to come to these coordinates. I want to break the promise. It was probably Norman that actually sent that call to them under the guise of William Minerva, but we didn't know it at the time, and neither did the kids. And that's what I've loved most about the series, how we've gone on this journey and we've been trying to guess as much as the kids, and it's been a shock to us as well as the kids in the story itself. But anyway, Emma goes on to look surprised and say, these two are allies of William Minerva, and as they're taken back to the group, they say, no way, real escapees, seriously so cool. You were even able to treat the wounds on my hand, that's crazy. And it's like, yeah, they're escapees, and yeah, they're able to treat the wound on your hand because they've had 2 years to prepare for everything, for every possible situation that could happen, except maybe if some of the kids die and Emma just absolutely snaps, which I'm still waiting for it to happen because it is actually going to happen at some point. As the kids all look confused about like how eccentric these two are actually being, like, oh my god, you've saved the real escapees, thank you, and they're just all over the place, and they're like, thank you so much, you all seriously have our respects for breaking yourselves out, and they're bowing down to the kids. And you see, actually, I think it's Dominic, the one standing next to Alicia and Jemima and Anna, who's like being like really reserved about it. It's like, okay, these two are being a little bit crazy, and I just love that reaction that we get of him when we see that Anna's just trying to be like, that's nice. Can you stop being a little bit eccentric and just calm down for 5 seconds? So after everyone has calmed down and they're actually able to explain the situation, Emma relays the information for us, the audience, to say like, and then, in other words, William Minerva is your boss, and he is liberating cattle children from the plantation and building a settlement with them all. And Jin actually confirms this. And Hatsui goes, the boss is amazing. He's extremely smart and is cunning yet capable, almost like a god. In only 6 months, he crushed several farms, has rescued hundreds of children, and now leads them all, which is kind of depressing for me because I really wanted there to be an arc. Because this is the final arc, it seems like the writer and the artists are actually incorporating stuff that could have potentially happened later down the line if they really wanted the series to continue on, like how Emma broke out Norman with Ray and they're actually liberating the farms together. But given that it's Norman, we knew that he would probably be capable to do this on his own, and I really want there to be like chapters that actually explain like how Norman was able to get out of the facility that Peter Rattari was monitoring him on. And I'm really actually glad he is back in the series now, and we can actually get more focus moments with Emma, Ray and Norman, and how they just need time to catch up and explain what everything's been going on with each other. But yeah, this was another clue that should have linked us to the fact that Norman was behind it. The fact that they show like he's smart and is cunning yet capable, and that perfectly was just like what Norman's character was. Like, he was smart and cunning, yet at the same time was capable of doing impossible feats, almost like a god in of himself. Because yeah, I basically compared him to Urahara from Bleach. Like, he's the Urahara of the Promised Neverland, and a lot of people were saying like, how did Norman break out? I've just got, because he's Norman. You don't need to explain it. He's Norman. As Slimy and Toma go to say like, incredible, just what do you expect from Minerva? He was the former head of the Rattari clan after all. No, it's not the same William Minerva. Toma, don't be getting ahead of yourself by just actually saying that. And Hatsui reveals like the mark that he has on his chest, and saying, we were also saved by the boss, everyone. He saved all of us. And then they're like, that mark, are they similar? And they turn to Adam himself, and it's like, and we see like the same arc, which obviously was another clue that I didn't pick up on. So I've got to give props, like this was major foreshadowing that Norman was the one behind it, because they had all these little clues in that hinted to us, because they had the same mark that Adam had, and he was repeating Norman's number 22194, and Adam was from the facility, the new facility that was built up, that Norman was sent to. So again, really smart on the author to actually leave these little hints in that Norman is behind it, but have it still be a surprise for everyone, even though we should have probably seen it all coming. It goes on to say to them, so your boss actually sent you out to look for us, and Jin actually confirms it and questions that, did they receive the broadcast after knowing that the shelter was going to be attacked? The boss sent them to scout them. The boss was heartbroken. He conveyed to me that he wants to help you out and he needs your power as well. And again, this should have been a hint that Norman was behind it. I know I keep saying that this should have been a hint that Norman was behind it, but it's true. Like, no, Norman could understand, like, okay, Emma and Ray are in this shelter, they're safe for the moment, it's going to be attacked, and it would have distraught him if they actually died. So that's why he sent out a scouting party to actually go and see if they were actually around to survive, because Norman does need Emma and Ray on this. If they're actually going to have a shot of breaking the promise and getting rid of the demons once for all, he needs those two by his side, because all three of them together make a perfect unit. And if one of them dies, then I don't think it would be as strong as it is right now that they can actually all be together and formulate a plan of what's going to happen next. Oliver confirms that they heard the broadcast and they need to head to that place he told them about, and Jin and Hattori offered them to be the guides that will actually guide them to the place. And again, that's really great that we've actually found out right off the bat that they're not enemies, they're allies, and they're going to lead them to the safety that they need to be in order to survive in this world, especially when Norman is the one behind it. And they go on to say that our base has food as well as a place where you can rest. And that's not all. We also have medicine and treatment facilities. It's ideal for treating anybody that's injured. And we see like just all these various injuries from various characters around, which shows that, yeah, they do need to get here and they need to regroup and formulate the next plan of what they're actually going to accomplish. Of course, they're not being let off the hook scot-free, as Gilda actually brings up a very valid point, actually, that the hideout, it hasn't been found by any of the demons, or the Atari clan has it, even though they destroyed several farms already. And that's actually a really good point that Peter could have found it by this point, although I think there is actually a reason why he's not actually launched a full-scale attack, because I think he's waiting for all the pawns to actually just be in one easy-to-kill swarm. I feel like he's basically letting them play their little game and basically letting them formulate like their plans, and then as soon as they're all together, he's going to like just decimate the hideout once everybody's together, just to kill them all in one easy-to-kill like just package. So I feel like if that's the case, then that's really smart on Peter's part. Like, he's actually playing the role of like just letting them like, no, they can play their game, but I already know where the hideout is, and I'm just going to wait until everybody is actually there, so that we can just launch a full-scale attack right now and just slaughter everyone. And if that's the case, then that just makes Peter that much more intimidating, because you don't know what is actually going through his mind and what actually game he's actually playing, whether he's playing like just the all-out assault, or he's being the clever puppet master manipulator from behind the scenes. And they go on to say that up until this point, we haven't been attacked by the enemy. We have powerful allies that are protecting and supporting us. It's indeed a paradise to us all, and it's like, oh my god, it's going to be destroyed. Pete, this is actually what's going to happen. I guarantee that they're talking so happy about this place that as soon as everybody's together, Peter's going to launch his attack, and he's not going to fuck around. He's going to be like, right, they're all together, all the escapees, they're all in one easy to kill place, decimate this place. And that is just like, and they just go on to keep just hammering this point in, saying, and more than anything, if we have that person, if we have the boss, we're unbeatable. Which again, that just gives me like death flags for Norman. And I'm gonna say this: if Norman is the one to die, if Norman, Ray, Don, and Gilda are the ones to die, like any one of them, I feel like that's gonna like just push Emma over the edge. But if all of them die, like, yeah, she's not gonna care. She's just gonna be pushed over the edge and just gonna go all out bloodshed at that point. As Emma goes on to say, a paradise liberation. It really was Mr. Minerva. Yeah, the Minerva before, he was alive. He is okay. I'm so glad. something like this is so encouraging, and she's just so happy, and it's nice to see that Emma just has that hope spark back in her before, when we get to the end of this chapter, before something actually just crushes that fact and just leaves her in a pit of despair. And again, that's what I love about Emma's character, how she can just like flip emotions on a dime, and despite having the stereotypical like, oh, cheery, happy and optimistic, she has more layers to her than pretty much any other character, and you don't really know what she's actually gonna what direction she's actually gonna go in terms of her emotions, because her emotions can get the better of her at times, but she's always been able to reel it back in. But again, they still come out. It's not like they're just totally suppressed. They still come out in various outbursts, as we've seen throughout the series. Ray goes on to question Jin about how far away the hideout actually is, and Dawn actually adds to this, going, what about the neck of the giraffe? Is it near there? And Hatsui goes to say, oh, you mean the lion's jaw? Which they confirm that no, it isn't. That rock is just the halfway point, and from there is about a 2-day walk. The exact location is unknown to all but a select few within our group. But again, you can't really have that mindset, especially when we've seen like what the owl cameras are capable of. Like, they thought the shelter was actually impossible to find, but again, they had the cameras everywhere and they could actually spy on them. And I think that's the same thing with Peter Atai, how he's seen where they are, but he's actually letting them play the little game before he actually goes in for the kill. So anyway, they carry on by saying, by Ray thinking, they're also cattle children and they know about both the broadcast and the lion's jaw. And Don goes on to think about those words they're speaking aren't lies, and Ray just shows like another side of himself, like he actually trusts them at this point, which again, if he doesn't trust them, then they're not going to get to the shot. So he has to have that little bit of trust in them, even though it's very little, and I still feel like he does have his doubts at times about them, but he's more than willing to trust them at this point. Whereas before, I don't at the beginning of the series, I don't think he would have even trusted them. I think he would just be like, no, we can't trust them. They know, they obviously hiding something, kind of feel like that would have been his mindset. But after all the experiences he's been through, I feel like he's more open to actually trusting, even though it's a little bit, he's still actually trusting them, and he's going, sorry for doubting you, and he'd like to ask them some information, which Jin says, go right ahead. Before Anna cuts off, and Anna cuts them off and says, but is it okay taking outsiders like us directly to your hideout? And again, that's actually a very valid question. Like, they don't know much about each other, so for all they know, the Gracefield lot could have a trick up their sleeve, and if they are lying, then they could just actually kill them as soon as they get to this whatever this hideout is, because they don't really know each other. But if they're all going to survive in this world, they're still humans and they're still cattle, and if they're all going to survive in this world, they all have to work together and they all have to trust you. And that's one of the key things about the Promised Neverland, is like trusting people, even though it's very little. You still have to trust each other if you want to get by in this world, because any untrusting of actual humans can just rip you apart in more ways than one. Hatsui goes on to say to them, like, it's what the boss wants, and they're doing this because they actually saved them, which again is a very valid point, that yeah, they did save them, and even though they might not trust them 100% completely, they're still willing to hold up hold up a life debt to them. Like, okay, you saved us, we're going to save you, we're going to get you to safety. And Emma goes, thank you, I look forward to working with you two. And Jin goes on to say, now for the explanation of our route back. From here, we can arrive at the hideout in 3 days if we head straight for it. And Ray goes on to ask them, can you use a gun? Which actually confirms that yes, they can use a gun. Which, Ray, that's actually confusing, because Ray, they did actually say that their guns were actually eaten, so they can use a gun if it wasn't eaten. I'm sure that if they weren't caught and surprised by those demons, they would have been able to shoot them dead themselves. As everybody is getting really excited, they look over at Christy and they're like, this is bad. Christy's condition is suddenly changing, and they're all in shock about what's happened with Christy. Before they're actually like, his breathing is shallow, his pulse too, and he has terrible fever. And I thought Christy was actually a girl. I totally thought it was a girl. I didn't realise that it was a boy this whole time. I really just actually thought it was a girl. But hey ho, it's a boy. He's a boy. And they actually questioned, what about Musica's medicine? And I'm glad that they actually mentioned Musica. I'm really glad because we saw Musica at the beginning of the final arc with Songju, and I was really hoping that we would actually meet them again in the actual forest area itself, and they would actually guide them as well. And that would have been an interesting idea if they actually guided them to the actual hideout with Jin and Hattori, and they met Norman, and it would have been an interesting dilemma that could have actually potentially gone in a certain direction. But it's what it is. We've got to deal with it. Even though I would have liked it, it's not really that big of a loss. As they go on to say that this is bad, Chrissy's got an infection, and if it goes on, they won't be able to save him, and they don't have any antibiotics as well. And they say his immunity and physical strength are dropping. It's 3 days until we get to Minerva's. Until then, we can get him medicine. Christy's body won't be able to last, and we see like just the shock of horror on Emma's face because she's made it very clear that she doesn't want anybody else to die, and Christy especially because he's one of the Gracefield lot. So Emma is like equally as attached, even more to what Christy represents for her. So she is obviously going to try her best to actually save him and get him the attention that he actually needs. As they go on to say, he might not even be able to survive until tomorrow morning. And we see even the look of shock of horror on Ray's face because he's actually in that mindset that he doesn't want anybody else to die. Again, showing the complexity of his character as well as the complexity of Emma's character, how they could just go from having just this hopeful nature to just something tragic happening on them, and they're just like really in shock and horror about the whole situation. As Emma goes, this can't be real, we've been through so much. Dead Christy, just wait a minute, no way, I absolutely do not want that. And she's just thinking back on all the happy moments that she has had as she has been with being Chrissy's big sister, and all those happy moments and cheering moments, and how she just cannot accept that, especially after what happened with Connie. And I feel like that's still haunting Emma to this day, that all the happiness that she had with Connie and how she wasn't able to save Connie, but she's not going to have the same happen to Christy. So I feel like she's going to try her best to save her. Hattori confirms to them that there is still a chance to save them, and there's a plantation nearby, and they can save Christy with the medicine that they steal from them. And they found to go to the plantation to find the medicine to save Christy, and that's where the chapter ends. So yeah, that was chapter 115, a really great chapter that had a lot of foreshadowing that a lot of us didn't pick up on until we actually got introduced again to Norman at the end of chapter 118, and now it all ties back and it all makes sense. And now that we're getting like the do or die situation with Christy, which I feel like it's just like being even though it's a side story, it's actually going to develop a certain character that actually was in the top, that was actually in one of the top 10, in top 5 I think it was. I think she made it into the top 5. So I feel like the next few chapters are really crucial to explore a certain character that has been on the back burner for quite a while. So anyway guys, what did you think of that? And now I'm probably going to end it here for today. I know I said I would do all 4 chapters, but it's getting really late for me, and I've got to do other things as well, so I'm probably going to end it here. And hopefully in the next few days, particularly on Wednesday or Thursday especially, I might be able to get the other 3 chapters done in that span of time. I know I'll be able to do it. So on Thursday when I do that, that's probably when I'm going to do it. But anyway guys, hope you enjoyed this review, and this will be Lasha Luke signing off. Later guys.